What is your first name?
Alan.
The spelling of it?
A-L-A-N.
And your last name?
Lemke, L-E-M-K-E.
And how old are you?
I'm 32 years old.
Okay, and were you born and raised?
Louisville, Kentucky.
Okay. And so growing up as a kid, talk a little bit about what life was for you in Kentucky.
I'm middle class. I was raised pretty well. My parents were never drug addicts. My sister's not a drug addict or alcoholic. Everything was really good. Everything was real nice.
Until?
At the age of 10 or 11, I started smoking pot. Really nothing. I mean, there were some events that occurred when I was young. I'm really not going to elaborate on that right now, but that's kind of where that road took me. So I started smoking pot when I was young, started drinking as well. As soon as I realized you could pay someone to get you alcohol, that was thrown into the mix. Once I was in high school, I started using cocaine. I started using hallucinogens like acid, ecstasy, so on and so forth. But really, once I was 18, I mean, I consistently smoked pot, obviously. It wasn't till, even on my 21st birthday, I didn't even go out to the bars. I wasn't drinking. I was actually, I'd say somewhat better than, usual. Once I became 24, that was the first time that I actually took an opioid. Once I got a hold of that prescription, there was really no turning back from there.
Did you need the prescription?
I actually did. I injured my back, and I got a hold of it, and it was real quick to realize that once you take something similar, like the opioid, I could work harder, and I could work through the pain. So I was taking that, and I ate that prescription rather quick. I really wasn't completely, I don't think, addicted just yet, but I'd already started that process. I didn't really cross the threshold, and I'll speak more about that here in a minute. But that was the beginning of my opiate addiction.
Do you remember what type of opiate it was and the milligram?
I do. It was Percocet 10s, 10 milligram. So yeah, that was the beginning. And from that point, I learned that I could get them on the street. I learned that I could get them from my family. We'd have them sitting around the house. My grandmother, my grandfather. I stole from them. It was rather quick that everything kind of got bad. So I was taking those, and I was also buying them off the street. My grandfather, he was prescribed OxyContin as well, and that's when things really intense. Eventually, I started selling OxyContin. I started selling other pills so I could supply my habit, and it's easier to afford it if you're making money as well. So I started doing that. I ended up meeting somebody that had cancer, and this gentleman, I'm not going to mention his name, but he was selling me OxyContin. He would sell me the large amounts for really cheap, and so I was selling those, at the same time as I was using them. It got to the point where I was using 8 OxyContin 80s a day.
80s?
Yes.
Wow.
And once that happened, it went on for a couple years, and I learned that I got to the point where I knew I had a problem, and that was the first time I actually sat my parents down and expressed that to them. They knew something was wrong. I wasn't the same person I was. I'm still not, but anyway, we'll get to that point. So I got to that point, and I sat them down and I explained to them that I had an issue, I had a problem, I was addicted. I was using OxyContin, I was using cocaine, I was drinking, and I was smoking weed. And we ended up going to addiction therapist and addiction doctor. They ended up putting me on Suboxone to get me off of that. Unfortunately, I don't think this doctor actually did things the way he was properly supposed to. I ended up being on Suboxone for 3 years, and that's not what you're supposed to do, obviously. But that's kind of how sometimes it goes. So I was on that for quite some time. Once I decided that I was tired of being on that every day, at some point in your life, if you're an addict like me, you get to a point where you are tired of having to take something every morning. It just gets old. It gets expensive as well. My parents helped me out quite a bit because it's not cheap, to have to do that every day and go every month. It ends up being close to $600–700 a month that you're spending just for that. That's not counting rent. That's not counting, your other utilities, so on and so forth. So anyway, I was on that for 3 years, and I ended up going to rehab, and I was in rehab for 28 days. Once I got out of rehab, I was still detoxing. This is, I learned that Suboxone if you're consistent, if you take it for that amount of time, the withdrawals will last a long time. So I've learned that it's similar to methadone. So methadone is what, you got like methadone clinics, people that are addicted to heroin or even pain pills, doesn't matter what it is. They can put you on that, or they can put you on Suboxone to maintain it. But if it's not properly maintained by that doctor, obviously it becomes a problem as well, So once I went to rehab, people were talking about heroin, and my ears were listening. And it wasn't until I got out and I was still detoxing. It was the first time I tried heroin. I didn't use it intravenously yet. I was just snorting it with, So that started, and
So may I ask you a question?
yes, ma'am.
So you're in detox and you hear someone, I'm assuming someone else who uses, that heroin is yet another option. So you want to be clean, but at the same time, it sounds like you want to be high?
That's kind of how that goes sometimes. If you're not, for me, if you're not working some kind of program, or if you're not getting the proper help, there's no option. It's not just, I want to stop. It doesn't work like that. I know a lot of people don't understand that concept, I hear that quite some time. I hear that a lot, why don't you just stop? It's your choice. You have it's up to you. It's not that simple. You actually have to be, working on yourself. It's not the drug that's the problem, it's yourself, A lot of people won't understand that, and I understand that too. But that's just how the addiction goes.
So if you could explain to someone the way that it works in your mind when a part of you saying, I want to stop, I'm tired of this, and there's another part of your mind saying what?
Go get high. I know that's kind of hard to understand too, but that's that battle that you have going on. Once I've that threshold that I was speaking of earlier, I'd already crossed it. From that point, when I started using 7 to 8 80s a day of OxyContin, there was no turning back. I'd already, my brain had already registered what I needed to survive. Obviously it's not the right decision, but that's what I thought at the time.
So I do want to ask you a question, because from what I understand, the 80s, which is the highest dosage you can get, typically is for someone is like at the end of
their life, they're dying of cancer.
Right. How were you even able to function?
I don't even know. When I look back at it now, it seems really crazy. The first time that I used OxyContin, I'd already been using pills before, similar like Percocet or Lowertab, 10s. I thought I could do one, a whole one. It made me sick. I was throwing up and stuff after I took it. But I still continued to take them, and it wasn't long before my tolerance got to that point.
How old were you?
Between 24 and 27, 28.
And is that when you said your life, it switched as far as your use?
It really had shifted before that, but things really got intense after that. I mean, once you get to that point, I think of where you're stealing from your family, and taking pain pills that aren't yours, getting into medication cabinets that are available, and taking meds, from other people. You've already entered into addiction. It's already to that point.
So when you were introduced to opiates, did you begin to seek out? Just how did you know other folks have this? Prescription drugs? I didn't
necessarily, I fell into getting those. I just happened to run into this guy, and it really wasn't my friend or anything, but somebody had already been buying them from him, and they let me know that I could get them from there too. So it's someone else that was in addiction. And like I said, I ended up getting them illegally quite a bit. A lot of people would, I'd sell them or trade them or so on, It really didn't matter how I got them. I would receive them and pay for them or sell them, like I said, and that's how that went.
So now in your journey, the most recent overdose that you had and Narcan was used, talk about that.
So my recent overdose was at an airport, and it was on the way actually to Beaches Recovery. I had actually overdosed before that as well. I had overdosed twice in 24 hours. But the most recent one was at Louisville International Airport. I was on getting ready to get on a plane to come to recovery, and I think like most addicts or alcoholics do probably, before you go into treatment, you want to do one more, because you're getting ready to stop. So I had purchased some heroin actually, and it turned out that it was fentanyl. Anyway, I went to the restroom. I snorted it up my nose, walked out to the American Airlines counter, put my bags up to weigh them to check in, and the next thing I know, I'm waking up on a stretcher. And when I woke up, I didn't really understand what was going on. I was cold. I was scared, I looked around, there was nothing but, Homeland Security and policemen and EMS around me. And they had informed me that they had used 3 Narcan. I don't know how many's in each vial that they use, but they had used 3 of those and it didn't work. And they had to shoot me with adrenaline as well. That was intravenously. And that's the only way that they brought me back. But I had been gone for 10 minutes.
When you say you had been gone?
I was dead. I mean, my heart wasn't beating, I don't think. I mean, it was really bad. They were doing, they were heart palpitations, like pressing on my chest, trying to get me to breathe. And they just informed me that, I was gone, like I was not going to survive, they thought. But when they shot me with the adrenaline, it started my heart back up.
Hold on one moment.
You're good.
When they told you about this incident and that you were essentially dead for 10 minutes, what came to mind?
It was bad. It really scared me. It still scares me now. And I'm sorry. It was just really difficult because I'd overdosed prior to that, and obviously I wasn't planning for that to happen, but it ended up happening, and I was just scared to death. The only thing I could think of was getting down here because I didn't think I was going to survive. If I would have stayed in Louisville, I don't believe I'd have made it. All my friends recently have overdosed and they're gone. I don't have anybody left. And it's not like, I know a lot of people hear this and they think, oh, he's a drug addict, he's the worst of the worst, but I'm not. I came from the middle class. And, I've always had good jobs. I don't know how I've been able to maintain them, but I have. And like I said, my family's, we're not poor, but then, I'm looking back at everything that's happened, and this is where my life has ended up, and I just was fed up, and if it wasn't for Beaches, I probably would have been dead by now. So.
So when you were in the airport and then they brought you back to life, you were then immediately transported here. How were you able to still get here after that?
This is kind of a crazy story, but so I went to the ER, emergency room, and they had to hold me for 4 hours to make sure that I didn't fall asleep, because you can slip off like that, you can stop breathing. So I go back to the airport and I try to fly out that night, and they had notified me that I was on the no-fly list. So I ended up giving the phone to an employee that works for Beaches, and she spoke with American Airlines pretty strongly. And they had eventually told me that I'd be able to fly out at 4:15 a.m. So, luckily that happened. And the woman that did this for me, really saved my life, I told her this recently too. I just recently met her not too long ago, and it was just a blessing. Like, I don't think I'd be alive right now. Actually, I know I wouldn't.
You really want to recover?
Yes, ma'am.
What do you want people to understand about that process?
You can't do it by yourself. It's not a matter of saying yes or no. It's a matter of getting the proper help and assistance that you're going to need. You have to reach out. You got to surrender, and you got to come out and ask for help. And it's not just as simple as that either. You can have all the help in the world, but if you're not ready to accept it and receive it, it's not going to work. For me, I have to work a program. I have to have a support system. I have all the support in the world, I just didn't want to use it, you know? It's taken me to the age of 32 to realize how things really are going to be for me from now on. And that is that there is no using anymore. There is no, oh, I go get a tooth worked on and I get a pain prescription, but because I got it from a doctor, it's okay. It's not okay. You have to be completely abstinent. And that's going to be for the rest of my life, and that's something I have to accept, and I'm working on it now.
So as far as the dreams you've had throughout your life, Alan, what have they been?
Basically, all I've ever wanted to be was a father and a husband, and that has not been able to happen. I've never been in no shape. I've had opportunities, you know. I've dated women, and you know, they wanted to marry me and everything, but I knew I wasn't good. I didn't feel like I was good enough, and I knew that I had a problem, and I just wasn't going to settle down like that. I've been working on this for quite some time now, and you know, that's basically all I've ever wanted in my life. I've just wanted children and, you know, be a husband, and I don't even dream of being rich. That's not something that I want. I feel like if I'm just making decent money and we can get, you know, not just get by, but be comfortable, that's all I've ever wanted.
As far as your career in life, what have ever been your goals?
You know, I just always want to have a decent job. I've been in logistics for quite some time, and I don't know if I've ever dreamed about being in logistics, but once I got into it, I loved it. So that's what I've basically always wanted to do. I wanted to go back to school, which is something I plan on doing. I have an associate's degree, but you know, I want to further that career a little bit more. But that's what I want to do.
What would you like to get your bachelor's degree in?
I've looked at a few options. I haven't really settled down on one just yet, but it would be something along like the logistics, you know, career. I don't know if that's what you know. I just want to further that just like that. There's not much else that I can explain on that right now.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Just wanted to get it for background, and then for your family, because as you mentioned, this is something that no one can go through this alone. So you have one sibling, a sister.
I was adopted.
Okay.
I have an adopted sister, and then I have two half-sisters on one side of my biological mom, and then I have a brother and a sister on my dad's side, biologically.
So between your siblings and then your parents, are your parents still with us?
Yes.
Okay. What have some of their thoughts been to you through this process?
I just recently met my mom about 6 months ago. But I'll start with my immediate family first.
6 minutes ago?
6 months.
6 months. You're
sorry.
biological?
Yes, ma'am. So obviously it's been disappointment, but they've never given up on me. My parents, you know, they're my best friends. That's all I got. I feel like my mother is she's dying right now. So it's a touchy subject. But they've always supported me, no matter what. When I went to rehab, they were there, you know. They always have been there for me. My sister as well. She's a little bit more stern. My sister's kind of more of a mother figure. She's 6 years older than me, but she keeps me in check, in other words, you know. So anyway, and as far as my biological mom, unfortunately, they got caught up in this as well. I never stole from them and nothing like that, but I lied, you know, and that's bad enough, you know, and they got caught up in this. They're really disappointed. I've never met my father. I just know about him. But as far as my biological mom and my sisters and my mom's husband, they don't really want to speak to me right now. So, you know, it's just something that I did, and I'm gonna have to deal with later.
Does it motivate you though to?
Yes, ma'am.
What do you want to say to parents who have children that may have been exposed to drugs that might be in some of the initial phases of this with the child or a teenager?
I just want to tell them, you know, don't give up on them. You know, there is options out there. the best thing you can do is just let them know that you're there for the support and that you are there to help them. I don't know if it's obvious or not, but if you are a drug addict or an alcoholic, it's up to you to get that help. Like I said, you can have all the help in the world, but if you're not using it and you're not accepting it, it doesn't matter. I don't know, different circumstances probably call for different options, but for me, just knowing that my parents were there and that they loved me and that they cared for me, that was big. That's a big deal. Even though I didn't realize all this until later on, I always knew they loved me, but I wasn't ready for the help. So, basically you have to hit rock bottom. You have to hit the bottom of everything. You have to just be fed up, and that's the only way that you're going to get help, because you want it. So for the parents out there, just know that it can't happen to you, and keep an eye on your kids. If you feel like something's wrong, there probably is something wrong. Don't be disappointed with them. Don't shame them. Don't dismiss anything that you see like that. Let them know that you're there for help. Tell them that they can talk to you, and that's a big deal right there. Let them know that you love them and that you're there for help.
These are some questions I'm just going to ask as far as framework to help the public understand the impact of these types of things. So you may not be able to answer this question, but just as an estimate, over time, how much money do you think you've spent on drugs?
Probably over $300,000, I'd say. It's quite a bit. This has been going on for quite some time, and I've made, like I said, I've had good jobs, and I've made really good money, and I'd say almost every, sometimes every dime would go towards that.
Have you ever been homeless because of it?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
I've always been able to somehow or another, whether it was manipulating somebody else and living with them like a girlfriend or something, I've always been blessed enough not to have that happen. But that doesn't mean, to me, homeless though just means that I don't have my own place. I don't have my own anywhere to lay my head. And so technically, if you really want to look at it, I've been homeless. Mm-hmm. If somebody, if a girlfriend would have broke up with me, that'd have been it, But my parents have always accepted me in, even when I've stole from them. They would just, they were, I don't know what the word is I'm looking for right now, but they were always there for me, so I got blessed with that. Mm-hmm. But I do know people that were homeless. I do know people that did live on the street, and they're just like me. They're no different.
What motivates you?
Life right now. Like I said, I want to, be a decent human being. I don't want to be the person that I was. The person that died in that airport is gone. And I feel like that will never, hopefully, if I do the things that are recommended for me and the suggestions that are, given to me, that I won't be that guy anymore. But like I said, I just want to be a father, and I want to have children, and I want to have a career. I want to have a nice house. I want to be comfortable, I want to be happy. But also at the same time, right now what's motivating me is stuff like this, what we're doing right now. I'm still working on myself a lot right now. So really I don't feel like I can help anybody just yet, but something like this can help people. I'm no different than the person sitting next to you. I feel like if somebody can see this, if somebody, can relate with me, there's options, and any way that I can, if this will save somebody's life, it's been well worth it to me.
And how long have you been clean?
It's just been a week, about a week, a little under a week. So, but you know what? To me, it's amazing. Like I said, I didn't think I was gonna make it. I had overdosed 4 times in the past year, and somebody might hear that and they'd be like, what? He's crazy. How could you die and then continue to do something? Like I said, it's not like you just wake up one morning and say, well, I'm just gonna stop. You know, it's not only a physical addiction, but it's a mental addiction. Once you're using that so long, it's a matter of you just you kind of register it as you need it to live. You know, you got to have it each day so you can get by each day. On top of the physical addiction, you know, if you stop, you're going to be sick. So your mind tells you, okay, well, you don't want to be sick, you know, so you keep going and you keep going. And unfortunately, it's led me to where I'm at. But I tell you, I couldn't be happier the way things are going. The place that I'm at right now, the Beaches Recovery, it's amazing. Everyone cares. Everyone, you know, everyone I spoke to, you know, some people are in recovery, some people aren't, and but they care, and it feels great, you know, to know that you have this kind of support. Even I'm not from this town, you know, but I was so scared coming here, and I was so scared to start over like this, you know, especially away from my comfort zone. But it's been amazing so far, so I'm pretty happy with that.
Anything else you wanted to share? Anything else you wanted to say about your life, your journey, anything?
I just want to tell everybody that's out there that is an addict like me, even if you're not an addict, you know, if you're addicted to alcohol, it doesn't matter what you're addicted to, you don't have to live like this no more. You know, you don't have to go down the road that I've went. And if you're further along than I've been, if you're in a worse situation, you can stop. You can get help. You don't have to go this way. You know, the statistics, as far as what I've heard of people surviving this disease, is not good if you continue on the route that, you know, that I was on. So basically, if you want to live, you can do that. And to me, that's the only options I have anymore. Is either to die or to live, and I choose to live, and I hope they do too.
So will be my final question for you then. You mentioned in the very beginning about your childhood and that there were some things that maybe caused you some pain in your childhood. How important is it, in your opinion, for people to deal with pain or to talk about the pain they have?
It's the most important thing you got to do. It's taken me this long kind of to really talk about things. Unfortunately, if I've been in recovery before, but I didn't address these problems, and I didn't work them out the right way. So I think that kind of what's made me come back. You know, what made me go back. Maybe I didn't think that's what it was, but that's what it was. And you know, if you don't work out those problems, if you don't get the help that you need, if you're holding on to something from your past, and it bothers you and it makes you, when you bring it up, it makes you sick to your stomach, you have to work that out. It doesn't matter if you're an addict or not. That's something that you have to deal with, and you have to get the help properly that you're going to need, or else at some point you're just going to be miserable forever, you know? And, you know, for me, it turned into drugs and alcohol. So that's, you know, that's all I got.
Thank you, Alan.
Yeah.